Nigeria says it will go ahead with the second phase consultations on Frontier Exploration Fund as well as regulations on decommissioning and abandonment of assets by oil and gas operators. Oyeyemi, partner at AO2 Law, joins me to discuss these developments we have in the sector. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today, Mr. Oke.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, really getting into the nitty-gritty of these new regulations that are being considered following the issuance of about 6 regulations in May this year. We're looking at issues around acreage, environmental issues, remediation fund, and much more, decommissioning. How do you also see this also establishing a stronger framework when we talk about the implementation of the PIA so far and the conversations leading up to sanitizing the oil and gas sector, especially within the upstream segment of the market?
Okay, thank you again. I think it is commendable the pace at which the Commission or the regulator is actually churning out the regulations with regards to upstream activities. The Commission needs to be commended on this. By end of the year, what it would mean is that we're going to have about 13 regulations which would be in force, perhaps in addition to some of the regulations that were either saved or kept under the old regime. Now, with respect to what we have to see under the new draft regulations, as you have mentioned, these regulations cover 7 different regulations. You have the unitization regulations, you have the upstream petroleum environmental regulations, acreage management regulation, frontier exploration fund administration regulations, and upstream safety regulations. You also have the environmental remediation fund regulation and decommissioning and abandonment regulation. I think the good thing with regards to this brand new draft regulation is that out of 7, you have about 3 focusing on environmental issues, and it shows us how the regulator is taking environmental issues seriously. Now, can the Commission issue regulations under the PIA? Definitely pursuant to the relevant section 10 of the PIA, which generally grants the Commission the rights to issue a regulation. How useful are these regulations? They are quite useful because there are certain areas that are not necessarily clear under the PIA, as it provides a general framework of how certain issues should be handled, and the regulation would actually bring more clarity with respect to how the implementation of the PIA would work. Are the regulations perfect? Obviously not, because even looking at a few of them, I can easily see 1 or 2 areas that need either clarification, things around, for example, how the Frontier Exploration Fund would work. But I would not say that because of those little clarifications or little issues, the regulations are not workable. And as you would have it, these regulations are in draft. Stakeholder engagements will continue. And I believe that the tweaks that are necessary to ensure that the regulations make sense, are workable, will be done before we have it gazetted.
Definitely, a timely gazette is important, but really, like you've also highlighted, we have to get to that place where we see all of the attendant issues addressed. Like you've also mentioned, the NUPRC also says that all of the issues and discussions will be clearly highlighted, and necessary clarifications and changes will be made where necessary. But now let's talk about the gazette of this and how this also fits into the transition and the exploration of the agenda of cleaner energy, really at a time where we are looking at energy utilization going by our current base.
With respect to transition or into cleaner energy, I think this will take a bit of time. We already have the Climate Change Act of 2021, which provides for framework as to how Nigeria will transit into a more cleaner energy system. But the question would be, will this be achieved almost immediately? Definitely, as you have mentioned, this is a transition and it will take a bit of time. I think the good thing is that we have natural gas, which can be considered as, or which has been considered as the transition fuel, and we have that in abundance. And the Nigerian government is also taking steps to maximize the gas potential of Nigeria. Oil will continue to be relevant. I think in the near term, we may not be able to phase it out outrightly, but definitely the emphasis on oil may likely continue to be de-emphasized over the period of time. Over a period of time. But again, as I have said, I think in terms of positioning for the Nigerian economy, natural gas comes to play. And that means that we need to ensure we take advantage of natural gas.
Ms. Okay, just before I let you go now, I'd like to have your thoughts on another burning issue. We're having the scrutiny of the petrol subsidy regime from 2013 till date now. We're having the NNPC also say that the volume of consumption is just about 66.7 million barrels per day, and that translates to about 3.4 trillion naira petrol subsidy, not the 4 trillion naira captured in the 2022 budget. How do you think this also informs the conversation as we're also prepping for the 2023 budget? Another scrutiny is ongoing as we speak ahead of the presentation from the president, which will come next month.
Okay, I couldn't make out the question clearly.
I'm talking about the current scrutiny. The current scrutiny of the petrol subsidy regime and how much we consume and the peg for petrol subsidy.
Okay, the issue of how much we consume still has to do with data, right? With respect to if we have sufficient data to be able to determine how much we consume. But the major impact of the skyrocketing prices or skyrocketing amount of petroleum subsidy has to do with the increase in the raw material itself, which is natural gas, right? Which is crude oil rather. And if we have a situation whereby crude prices continue to move up, definitely the resultant effect is that you have an increase in price of the refined products as well. So in terms of why we see the numbers go up, particularly, I would say that the major driver has been because of the increase in crude prices world over.